Sources of oil and gas. We are producing more natural gas, which represents cleaner energy, and it emits up to 70% less carbon dioxide than coal in power plants. We are developing smart energy through products and services that help our customers get the most out of the energy they use, boosting efficiency and cutting their CO2 emissions. Innovation from Shell, helping meet the world's growing energy needs in a responsible way.
Well, and we seem to be responsible for Shell, but I'm not sure if we're good, especially when we're investing in oil as well. And of course, the next video is showing the oil generation process. So they're still emitting CO2 like crazy, and just because more natural gas will be part of the mix. To us, it doesn't seem like a solid problem. But at least give you a perspective on how people and companies are facing the upcoming demand. 2 billion more people is a big demand. Looking at a huge amount in a short time. The institute that I find very interesting and comparable to our institute is the Rocky Mountain, which is RMI.org. Amy Lovin, who I've talked to many times. And we find that their newsletters are very helpful. There's a lot of advocacy projects that were very well funded as well. Amy's authored some excellent books. Soft Energy Paths was one book I liked a lot. He liked micro hydro. So Amy Lovins is a good guy. It's just unfortunately he doesn't study future energy. None of the work that RMI does looks at the future in terms of generations of things that are a little bit farther beyond the technical 100% development that is currently available on the market today. So instead, what he's come up with, which to me is a very poor solution to the problem, demanding that the entire population look into energy efficiency savings to address really a doubling of the energy demand. It just doesn't make sense. So this is a failing that RMI is advertising, which really doesn't provide, as they claim, a credible path to economy-free oil and gas. It's literally asking everyone that hears about it to start using half as much energy as you do today. So as I talked to Al Gore about climate change, I find that the Earth itself is teaching us a lot, especially when you look at the carbon dioxide level. It's way above what we've ever seen maximum in 400,000 years. I give credit to Dr. Jim Hansen, who put this graph together and published it in 2006, MIT's Technology Review. It's on our website as well. But this graph shows the lockstep correlation between carbon dioxide, temperature, and sea level. And you can examine it in detail and ask yourself, why do these three lines track each other? Well, as Jim Hansen mapped them and changed the maximum to overlap, we found that the cycles, which are going through several ice ages here, is actually very closely correlated. So what I did is I put together a very interesting close-up at the beginning of the graph and the end of the graph, and literally gave us a calibration of what to expect in terms of temperature increase. And this is, I thought, a very interesting discovery. So this is back in 2006, and we were already letting the world know that this graph predicted a 4-degree increase at 377 parts per million. Well, instead, now we're up to 400 parts per million. So we have to announce that it's really 5 degrees C or 9 degrees F, so we're indebted for. So even if we stop emitting carbon dioxide completely, as they say, the original carbon dioxide that was emitted by the first YT cars is still in the atmosphere. The atmosphere simply stores carbon dioxide and retains it. It's literally gaining all the time. This is causing this temperature gap to exist. And so the Earth is going to heat up no matter what we do, even if we stop emitting carbon dioxide tomorrow. So of course the next question comes up, what do we do about reducing the level of carbon dioxide? Well, I'll point that out in a second, but I also thought I'd share with you that in in 2009, we had a confirmation of the prediction that graph showed. So it only took the climatologist 3 years to catch up to where Jim Henson was back when he just looked at the ice core temple. And so 6 degrees, talking about Fahrenheit, which is almost close to 7, and 40 degrees C in 2009 edition. Well, one of our conferences on future energy, we had a fellow named Russ George. Russ George was on ABC TV and actually received a lot of publicity for his innovative work in putting an iron powder seeding patch in the ocean and then getting a satellite image of it showing that he had sponsored plankton bloom, which sequestered millions of tons of carbon dioxide. And this was first published in Nature magazine and various other places. It received a lot of criticism because, of course, a lot of professors and experts were all skeptical about what the environmental impact was. Well, the most important part is that it still might work. And this took only, actually 6 years later, to have the experts confirm that the plankton bloom he created with iron powder, most of it's thanks to the bottom of the ocean. So that, to me, is a great confirmation. Russ was very excited when I told him about this article in Nature magazine. And he said he had already confirmed it many times, but of course the experts didn't believe it. But now this seems to be the most important innovative way to, once the free energy and future energy devices out there, not emitting carbon dioxide anymore, supplanting the automotive and electrical generators, then the next job is to sequester what's already floating around in the ground and save us from consequences that we're already intended for. So as we look at the Earth in general from space, we see there's a whole continent that's really energy poor, or as we call it, a continent of energy poverty. Well, our government actually got involved with the Power Africa project, and yet one thing was published shortly after Obama announced the funding for it, and that is the solar energy was not very well emphasized. So I decided to, going into the project by volunteering the innovative idea of a bank of LEDs, a solar panel, and a rechargeable battery, and that was asked for at least 8 hours of light. Well, it turns out somebody else had already thought of that. Bingo. OverUnityDOTcom actually has one available for only $10 retail, and I guess we could show one of those if we wanted to. We actually have one to show a demonstration. The nice thing is this is only $10 in a compact form, and you can inflate it once, it never deflates, of course, unless you pierce it. But it's designed to be able to also float in case you're in water, so it can be used on a camping trip or a boating trip. And it's solely powered by solar energy on the top of the solar panel. And as you leave it during the day, it charges enough for 6 hours at least of light during the night for evening work. And we're really targeting the students. There are millions of students in Africa who literally have no electricity. So they're trying to read their textbooks by kerosene lamp. Kerosene, of course, is very bad to breathe. So as Jackie's shown you, this flashlight obviously is very bright. And it's nice to be able to know there's no battery. Well, there is a rechargeable battery, but there's no connection to the grid that's involved here. It also has another nice mode too, where you get into a flashing emergency. It's called EMRG, so it's an emergency light as well. And you can throw it in your car if you want, or use it for any other purpose. But the nice thing is that it also satisfies the need for someone that might actually need light in the evening to study their textbooks. So this is a nice organization to consider joining. You basically could donate to have one put into a third world country. They would take care of the actual charitable fulfillment of that being purchased and delivered to third world countries. And we're in conversation with them about the Africa project, because they don't have a lot of Africa delivery systems set up yet. Well, I also like to emphasize the energy harvesting availability. This is a very fascinating field that's only become bigger and bigger as we first discovered it. The interesting new development has been the Energy Harvesting Journal. And that journal is available at energyharvesting.org. also go to the website and simply look at all the new news that they cite, which I find very valuable. But the image you see here is a inkjet printed antenna that's actually available for harvesting terahertz signals. And the interesting thing is that the human body emits infrared all the time. We're bathed in an infrared sea, and the terahertz antennas allow us to harvest that energy. Even various other professors have studied this, besides Georgia Tech School of Electrical Engineering. And a lot of them are now being put into electronic devices as well. And one of the devices that I have been working to be an advocate for to install in this country is the Binnotec Piezoelectric generators. Now these piezoelectric industrial generators are very robust. They're designed to literally be installed underneath railroad ties and also underneath highways. And the fascinating development is that they can actually produce 500 kilowatts per kilometer, or in other words, a half a megawatt per kilometer. So this is a very valuable amount, especially when you consider some of the 200 megawatt generators that are using natural gas or coal burning power plants. So this is a real breakthrough that's been advocated a few times in our future energy annuals, but it's overseas in Israel right now, and that's where the company is located. So the advocacy and the marketing ability is certainly needed to bring it to this country. We also find that tritium batteries are being developed in a small scale, 20 to 40 year lifespan. So this is kind of a sign of the future when we consider how future energy devices are going to come to market. The one advice that we've received from some of our advisory board is that whenever you find a disruptive technology, as tritium batteries are, you're ensuring that whoever buys this will never buy a battery for 20 to 40 years from now. So that's very disruptive to the battery manufacturers. What you do is exactly what these City Labs company did. You design it into a small package. So it doesn't have very much of an impact, but it certainly proves that the technology works. And this has been described in many different journals that have a patent on it. Paul Brown was one of our speakers at our first conference. And Ray Kurzweil called it one of the 10 coolest technologies in 2006, actually. And as we move along, here's another video for you from MIT. And this is an exciting one that literally no one in the world ever suspected would work. And it now uses a wet surface to generate electricity. And I think we have, yes. Oh good, the internet's working a little bit faster. Artificial
MIT researchers at the David H. Koch Institute for Integrative Cancer Research have developed a new material that changes its shape after absorbing water vapor. This material is made from an interlocking network of two different polymers. One forms a hard but flexible matrix that provides structural support.
I apologize.
Leider Gottes ist es so, dass auch so ein bisschen so die Vortragstechnik so ein bisschen nicht mehr
And they were about to show you the wonderful polymers jumping around on the surface. Yes. Okay. It looks like it's recovering.
Binnotec Institute for Integrative Cancer Research have developed a new material that changes its shape after absorbing water vapor. This material is made from an interlocking network of two different polymers. One forms a hard but flexible matrix that provides structural support, while the other is a soft gel that swells when it absorbs water. Together, these polymers create a material that converts water vapor to energy without the use of an external energy source. When the 20 microliter thick film is exposed to moisture, the bottom layer absorbs the evaporated water, forcing the film to curl away from the surface. Once the bottom of the film is exposed to the air, it quickly releases the moisture, causing it to somersault forward and start to curl up once more. Researchers were surprised to discover not only does it need a very small amount of vapor, but it also demonstrated a large amount of strength. Using only water vapor as an energy source, the film can lift a load of silver wires 10 times its own weight, harnessing this continuous motion to drive artificial robotic muscles or generate enough electricity to power small electronics.
So we try to pay attention to the one innovative discoveries that actually are marketable, and that's the beauty of this type of device as well. Did you hear the phrase, without any external energy source? So this is exciting. Who would ever guess that water vapor itself could be an energy source? And of course this can be scaled up, and there's a lot of controversy as far as how big you can make something like this. But to tell the truth, even small amounts of energy are still useful for a lot of the micro devices. And another area that we've pioneered as well has been the magnetic field gradients. What I find interesting is that although there's a lot of other gradients that have been used for generating electricity, which includes hydroelectric power with a gravity gradient, the heat pump, for example, is a thermal gradient, and so forth. The magnetic gradient has not been used except in laboratory experiments. The Stern-Gerlach experiment is famous for that. And also in the Hartmann patent. The Hartmann patent 4215330 shows how to develop an inhomogeneous magnetic field with permanent magnets and propel a ball bearing up at a 10-degree incline. And it's quite convincing that this perhaps can be used in a circular fashion or a spiral motor design. So I built several of these and produced a paper. The paper has actually been voted the most viewed, 400 views on ResearchGate. So the spiral motor paper itself has become a very popular viewing topic. And what I'm hoping to do for the next paper is doing simply on the V-track and also the radial design, which can be done on a single plane spiral as well. And of course, energy harvesting. A little bit of energy harvesting go a long way to commutate the spiral motor. And in the area of zero-point energy, I wrote a book called Zero-Point Energy Fuel of the Future, which summarizes the power of nothing, in other words, a quantum vacuum, being able to generate electricity as well. And we've also sponsored experts such as Professor Modell, who came to our Conference of Future Energy to describe his patented 7379286. That describes the use of noble gases going through very small nanometer-sized holes that essentially then radiate electricity or radiate energy, electromagnetic energy, as they get released from the cathode cavity. So this seems to have the potential for generation of energy simply from the zero-point atom. And this is also something that is an ongoing project, which of course is hard to fund. That's one of the criticisms we receive from professors that are willing to do work in the zero-point energy best design that we've come across, which we feel is the promise for the future, when you hope for and visualize or envision the 1 cubic foot generator that goes in every boat and every house and every airplane that generates electricity through solid state converters. The zero bias diode seems to have the most hope and promise for such a conversion. And these types of devices are already being used as antennas for microwaves. And so we've been advocating the concept of a diode array, and we'll actually be pursuing that even further with some of the students that have volunteered to do this for graduate projects as well. Backward tunnel diodes are one of the targets that have been advocated. So we've purchased a Keithley pupil animator and verified that these diodes will actually act as constant current generators. So this is kind of exciting to see how the diodes work and also how to put them in series or in parallel to generate electricity. So the end design is really following some of the patents on diode arrays that already are out there, but the conversion of that diode array